Yes, and I am the bread. Oh, you're saying we are the soup.
We're the soup.
Yes.
Yeah. You can be the bread if you want. That's okay. I don't mind.
I don't know. The analogy was pretty bad, but I think that's definitely the cherry on top to that cringe opening. Now let's go ahead and hop into game 2 of a Japanese face-off. We have Tansoku versus Machamp. Tansoku, a player that has qualified for a championship event this year, and Machamp, who's a player who has historically done very well on ladder, and I think that he is very similar to some of those other ladder players that we've seen do very well over the years that just needed a little bit more to push them over. You know, I'm talking about like guys like Muzzy, you know, back in the day, who used to always be in the top 10 legend, but didn't really have too many chances, and finally had his breakthrough. And you know, Machamp is kind of like that. He had so many good ladder results for so many seasons, but just hasn't paired a tournament victory or a tournament run even to piece it together.
Yeah, and maybe this could be his run. Down 1-0 in this series in round number 1 versus Tansoku. And these players' lineups, it's pretty close to a mirrored lineup. They both have Odd Rogue, Even Paladin, and the secret mid-rangey Hunter. The one difference is in their priest decks, where Tansoku went with the Cloning Gallery Priest, where Machamp went with the Dragon Control Priest. So that's really the only difference maker. So they had pretty similar ideas of what they wanted to do coming into the Asia-Pacific playoffs.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the default strategies. I mean, you just look at these 4 classes, Hunter, Priest, Paladin, Rogue. They are at least 75% plus represented across the field. And then that other 25%, it's spread across things like Warlock and Druid and Shaman Mage, and so on and so forth. So, aka one class I can't remember off the top of my head. Warrior. And so I think it's going to come down to a lot of the technical plays on like how well you know these defined matchups. Because personally, I believe decks like Mid-Range Hunter, even though it might seem fairly straightforward with Dire Maul on 1, Vacuum Razor Maul on 2, Animal Companion 3, assuming you don't get those curves, I do think the deck has a lot of nuance that often gets lost solely because of just how powerful the class is.
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. And Machamp, not off to a great early start, which is problematic because even Paladin, one of the decks that can snowball a board position better than any other deck. Things like Blessing of Kings, Spike Ridge Steed. If you don't keep their board clear, oftentimes they can hit you for large sums of damage in a single turn.
Yeah.
Which is actually particularly fun and interactive.
You know, it really is. You know, I think, you know, one of the things about Hunter is that because so many things does damage to only minions now, it is a fairly interactive class. It just becomes difficult to interact with them when they just have overwhelming value through things like Zul'jin, the Spellstone, and Deathstalker Rexar.
Yep. But
granted, you know, things like Unleash the Hounds and Flanking Strike and just like Deathstalker Rexar's Battle Cry and Spring Paw with Rush, like it'll always be aiming to destroy your board in some capacity, which is what makes it scary because they have so much comeback potential, they have so much burst. Now they have card draw through Master's Call and value through Deathstalker Rexar, and then they have burst like they usually do with just Kill Command, and you know sometimes if you play against Spell Hunter, they even baited Arrow your.
All right, I'm sold. Jeez.
So call now for 5 installments of 40 dust each. You two, well, I don't know how much dust they cost these days, but Mid-Range Hunter still is fairly cheap as long as you already have things like the Death Knights.
Yeah, 3 legendaries. A lot of the cards are the classic secrets.
Yeah.
And a lot of commons, not the whole deck. So relatively cheap deck.
Yeah. One thing that I'm also proud of too, just from like a storyline perspective, as you can see, Tansoku just fighting back for board control, doesn't have a good way to deal with this Tundra Rhino, which seems like it's a recipe for disaster, by the way.
Yeah.
Is that Tansoku seems to be playing an aggro lineup, or a more fast lineup, finally. Tansoku
finally
is a player that
took him 5 years.
He's always played control decks whenever we see him in tournaments, and then when we finally saw him qualify, we're like, dude, you just love like control warrior, right? He's like, no, I love aggro. I just don't think I'm ever good enough to play aggro, so I play control decks, which are easier.
I was
like, woo!
I was so hurt by that because I had kind of.
He was like your hero.
I latched onto him as like one of my go-to predictions for Asia Pacific. I loved his play. He played control warrior all day long. That's what I thought. This was in my head.
Right, right.
And I was like, oh, he loves control decks. He loves the same control decks that I do. And then he said that, and I just felt this gaping hole in my heart. But
Ooh, this redemption, the ultimate punish for exactly what Machamp didn't want to see.
Yeah, he's also got the healing lined up with the True Silver Champion to give it Divine Shield again.
The thing is, though, are you willing to invest 5 more damage and a complete clear board just to deal with this Glass Knight? I don't think so. It's just going to gain Divine Shield anyways.
Oh, wow.
That is a heavy commitment, and more importantly, it gives back the board to the Even Paladin, which they need. You know, like that's the thing. Like, Tansoku didn't really have too many good ways to clear both minions unless he used Avenging Wrath in that position. And now he has the full board development, and he's choosing the Corpse Taker when he doesn't have the Wind Fury anymore. He's holding Wind Fury Harpy.
This is...
that was a bit of a head scratcher, TJ.
I think he's setting up for Sunkeeper Terram because he can Hero Power Terram next turn if he assumes that Machamp's going to play something big. But you rarely get an opportunity to play a Wind Fury Harpy in an empty board on 6 as Even Paladin. It is super powerful. It threatens buffs. The Hunter usually has to, if they have the resources to do so, overreact to a Wind Fury Harpy in fear of Spike Ridge Steed or of Blessing and Kings.
I agree. That said, Tansoku's plan ends up panning out pretty well because Machamp's half his hand are secrets, which are annoying to deal with, but Tansoku at least has a very predictable way to play around all of them. Machamp, I believe, actually does have secret redundancy. No, I must be misreading that. Yes, sorry. I thought the Scavenger Hyena was a wandering monster for some reason. No. But yeah, like it's when usually most secret hunters have one of each, so you can be able to play around each secret one time, as if you know the suite that they brought to the event.
Yes. And outside of Deathstalker Rexar, pretty poor hand. Not really much to follow up, but also not much value from Deathstalker Rexar immediately. He probably wants to soften up the board with the secrets. And then play Deathstalker Rexar, but like I said earlier, Even Paladin snowballs a board quite easily.
Right.
And if you leave one minion on board, that can be the death of you with all the buffs they have, and of course, them being able to chew through your minions with Equality plus Consecration or Avenging Wrath, as we see in Tansoku's hand.
Yeah, and we kind of mentioned the suite, if you will, of secrets that you have. They all synergize fairly well because, you know, you can't activate Wandering Monster without triggering Snake Trap because you're just going to attack the minion. And that softens up the board even more so that Deathstalker Rexar has a higher impact. I think the debate is, you know, does Machamp want, say, a Venom Strike Trap versus a Snake Trap? Snake Trap is much more vulnerable to a Consecration or an Avenging Wrath, and Tansoku's been playing a little bit suspiciously. Like, he's been holding cards on the left side of his hand for a while. And he's been kind of like playing like the Corpse Taker off the top. So, you know, in Machamp's mind, he might... Oh, wow, a kill command. I was not anticipating this. I was anticipating a third secret here.
This is a big nod towards Deathstalker Rexar if I've ever seen one.
Right, this is fairly obvious. I mean, he's playing with 3 or 4 of his cards face up at this point.
Yeah.
Because the secrets are drawn from Subject 9 and then Deathstalker Rexar.
I live to serve.
Ooh.
Oh, wow, that instant subbing up 2/2.
Well, it doesn't really matter because with that read that Tansoku should have, now I guess it's the argument of whether or not he's willing to give up 6 damage in order to make sure that the board's clear going into the next turn.
Right. No, it's a fairly impactful decision because even Paladin needs to pressure from this point on to win the game. If Tansoku does end up having like the Deathstalker Rexar read, he knows that he's going to be on a clock. So does he choose to give that 3 life or does he choose to pressure and force his opponent to have it? But here's the thing. If he doesn't trade into that 2/2, this Wind Fury Harpy gets blown up in the collision.
Yeah, and I like these trades. He still pushes 3, but that 1/1's not too threatening because it's only when damage and it survives that it summons the 2/2. If you damage it when it's at 1 health, if you overkill it.
That's kind of the one downside of Dire Frenzy, you know, because people compare it to Blessing of Kings. I'm like, well, you know, Dire Frenzy doesn't require, or sorry, Blessing of Kings doesn't require you to have any minion type or tribe.
Yeah.
Dire Frenzy only attaches to beasts. Had that been the case, then maybe this ghoul would have been pretty nutty.
Yeah. Summon a bunch more that all summon 2/2s. That'd be pretty sick. But also, Blessing of Kings would be pretty sick if you summon more copies of that and you had a 3-mana card that read potentially summon one of those Blessing of Kings minions back to your hand. Ooh. Lich King picked up. Tansoku was a little light on threats. With his hand, he really wants to be proactive so he can follow it up with Avenging Wrath and Equality to try and push that extra damage to end the game.
Yeah, that's right. Lich King hits the board. Anti-Magic Shell, really powerful card if you're able to cement that board lead. And Machamp doesn't have very good responses to it right now. Needs to build a beast. Something with Rush, with Poisonous, preferably both. I mean, Tansoku, ever since he got that early board because of that Glass Knight trade-in from Machamp, he's just been stacking his advantage very slowly, being able to get that good Terran, being able to get that Win for Your Heartbeat down safely, and now this Lich King, it's getting out of control, TJ.
And because Machamp doesn't have a way to deal with the Lich King, Tansoku also has a great way to deal with the Freezing Trap, which he made the hard read of last turn. That's why he didn't attack with the Win for Your Heartbeat, because he knew that of the potential of that. And it's pretty likely to be that because he had narrowed down, because he knows Machamp only plays one of every secret, and he'd already seen Explosive Wandering Monster, then he was pretty confident that that was the case. He didn't want to risk it getting frozen back in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, King Luca is like pretty good stats, but pretty good doesn't cut it.
Yeah, it also gives the bananas over to Tansoku, which allow him to make even better trades, because a lot of times he has extra minions on the board. Not the best situation for Machamp.
Yeah, especially because, like you were saying, the anti-magic shell here is going to be super nutty.
Well, anti-magic shell, he does need to make sure if he wants to play those bananas that he plays them first. Because anti-magic shell makes so you can't target your own minions as well.
Yes. Is this
16 plus...
Does he have lethal?
No, because now he can't equality. It's 20 damage.
Yeah. I was trying to see if
but
he could put the was it an order situation where if he attached bananas he would get the damage to win? But
well, I think it was just a mistake not to attach. Yeah, see, a mistake not to attach the bananas because he has 2 floating mana now. Would have just pushed 2 extra damage.
Right. Yeah, he would have. He actually did have lethal.
Well, there's 16. No.
If you just each banana counts as 2 damage because the Wind Fury Heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
So he has 22 right now, and he's supposed at 23.
Well, he hasn't attacked yet. So it would have been 4 extra damage.
Yeah,
he would be. Oh, jeez.
I was like, wait, hold on. Is this an order LUL moment? And it totally is.
Yeah. That is a
Tansoku. I am so disappointed.
As soon as he played the anti-magic shell, I did the math in my head. I was like, that's not lethal. But he's attacking as if it's lethal.
Oh, please punish him, Machamp. Something. Lifesteal Rush.
He's dead. He's got a quality Avenging Wrath. He's got a True Silver Champion equipped. He needs to clear the board and remove the weapon and heal.
Okay, so Iron Beak Howl plus Rush.
Plus Acidic Swamp Ooze.
Does he have the Cracking Razor Mod? No, he played it from his hand.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just no way. The secret that he has up is Snake Trap. He doesn't have any other secret. Tansoku knows it's Snake Trap.
We got the Vicious Scalehide.
Did he?
And then he could... Oh, he's 1 mana away from Dire Frenzing it. I think that might have would have saved him if he had the mana to do that.
Wait.
If he had the ability to Dire Frenzy, he would have gained that lifesteal as a 6 attack minion, and then he'd be able to clear off everything.
Nope, he'll be exactly at 4.
Yeah. No, he would have... He might have... I think he still would have died because... Yeah, because he would have to trade everything in.
Never punished.
That is it. And Machamp. Wait for that. I'm glad you guys got.
You want to get another one in there?
I'll go for the other side for symmetry.
Ooh.
I just want you to go. as soon as I snapped on.
They got away. They're like, no, come to the game quick. They're getting out of control.
Welcome to Hearthstone After Dark, Asia Pacific Edition.
Oh, jeez.
All right, well, let's go do Priest versus Rogue. This is an odd Rogue. This is a clone Priest. And Tansoku, let's see if he has anything unconventional from most lists. Seems fairly straightforward. Has the Vivid Nightmare for the extra burst combo over the top.
Yep.
But, pretty straightforward. Now, the thing about Clone Priest is that every time I feel like this deck isn't that great against aggro and I'm playing like an aggressive deck, I lose to this deck. And it's just because they have so many ways to survive that you just don't think, like, you know, like, oh, like Holy Smeister survive and like early like Spirit Lash, but even like, you know, having like drawing Ziliax and the fact that they can keep reviving it for a while, it's like I had a person that coined out Ziliax into double Eternal Servitude and to like a Spellstone just to survive with Ziliax, and I just couldn't kill him anymore because I was out of time.
And then he just played Cloning Gallery and Mind Blasted you for 40.
Yeah, it was like he basically just survived with one Ziliax and every revive card possible.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, sometimes I just can't kill this deck.
Yeah, the one thing that he doesn't have is the Obsidian Statue. I think he has a Shadowward Pain in place of it, which is not that common of an inclusion in Cloning Gallery Priest. But going with Obsidian Statue can be one of those cards where you just love having it because it saves you, gives you that extra life gain. It's really awkward for your opponent, but sometimes it's one of those cards that you hate because you're looking to kill your opponent, especially in control matchups, and then Obsidian Statue just keeps coming up in all of your revive pools, and you wish that it was a Velen or a Malagos to get that extra Mind Blast damage in.
Yeah, it makes sense too because, you know, without like Shadow Essence, I think Obsidian Statue gets a lot worse because the statue, part of what makes it really powerful is the synergy of being able to summon it from your deck.
Yes.
And, you know, Shadow Essence gives it redundancy. And, you know, the whole point of Obsidian Statue, at its core, is really to stop the aggro matchups. You know, it's not that great against control and combo. Or, you know, mid-range is, like, pretty decent as well. Shadowward Pain just feels much better to remove those early-game threats, like, you know, those really pesky early-game Hunter minions. That being said, you know, I don't think that Shadowward Pain is doing him very good right now, DJ.
No, but Hench Clan Thug has reached Shadowward Death levels.
That's true.
So he's got all his bases covered, Dan, but still a decent amount of removal in the hand. Has Witchwood Grizzly to maybe buy some time, though Machamp does have Fungalmancer and Bilespine Slayer to try and push through big stuff.
Yeah. The Radiant Elemental has opportunity for a pretty decent play here with Radiant Elemental, Spirit Lash, Coin, Shadowward Death. You gain 4 life. Shadowward Death removes 2 minions on the board, and because your opponent already has a Poison Dagger, it makes it a little bit less ideal for them to swing into it because they're missing 2 extra damage compared to just having a normal 2/2 Poison Dagger.
Yeah, there's always the argument of how greedy should you be with Spirit Lash against aggro matchups.
It's true.
Because there's always the potential for huge life gain swing turns. Once you get to Velen, because you double dip on the healing and the damage. So oftentimes it's a Reno effect if there's just a few minions on the board. And there's almost always going to be use for it.
Okay.
So, and also I don't, yeah, he's going to go for it here. I guess just buying time with Psychic Scream in hand is valuable. But I do want to kind of keep that in the back of our minds. Would Spirit Lash... Could Spirit Lash save him later on in the game and make up for that lost damage? Something that I like to think about. But also limiting Fungalmancer.
Yeah, that's the second reason why I really like to stop Fungalmancer from overwhelming him. But you're completely right, TJ. Spirit Lash might seem like a support card, but it oftentimes can be an MVP card.
Yeah. So save you a lot of situations.
You have to be very judicious with how you utilize that card.
Ooh. I love when you bring out the linguistic stand.
Yeah.
Hit me with some more of that adult language.
Yeah. Well, so whenever I say that word, I start just thinking about the Fergie song where it just starts using any word that ends with vicious. It's like, because my fledglings are vicious. Be judicious. I know in the back room right now, Admirable's
he's crafting a parody.
He's actually writing down a parody.
It's like, wow, that's a great idea.
He's beatboxing to himself, and he's sitting a little bit too close to Sottle.
The one thing
while spitting on him from beatboxing excessively.
The one thing that we're missing in HCT broadcast is a camera that follows Admiral around.
Yes, we are. That is what we are missing out on. By the way, this Fungalmancer Coldblood seems like a nutty play, but it plays directly into Psychic Scream, and you know that Machamp's stuck with, you know, a 3/4 Piranha Plant. At
this point, I think you're the aggro player with no Myers in hand. You have to play, assuming that 1, he doesn't have Psychic Scream, or 2, Myers is your next card in your deck.
Yes.
You don't really have an option to, I'm going to sit on these resources a little bit. I'll have another chance to push a bunch of damage later on in the game. You won't.
That's right. because that chance is fictitious. But this play looks delicious.
Too soon.
I think, when you're odd rogue and you're in this position, though, you have to force your opponent to have it because you're not in a bargaining spot, in my opinion. I mean, look, this is still kind of the same thing, but it pushes more damage because you're able to get it immediately. So I think any variant of using Cold Blood plus a 5-mana card was perfectly fine. But Tansoku is, one turn away from stabilizing them unless Machamp picks up, exactly Myra's unstable element.
Or Leroy is lethal because he's got 7 mana.
Leroy is lethal. So Leroy, and then the second best option would probably be a way to reload like Myra's unstable element.
Yeah, but has more cards in his deck now because of the Psychic Scream. So that there's just now, again, still 2 copies of Vile Spine Slayer, 1 drawn. Can be a key card. Just to push through those big minions, but sometimes Priest likes when you kill their minions, because then they get to bring them back. Tansoku still has a long way to go, though.
Yeah, what's in his res pool? So we have a Rain Elemental, a Witchwood Grizzly,
A Gilded Gargoyle.
a Gilded Gargoyle. And I mean, that's why it's so important to hold on to his Vile Spine Slayer because of that possibility of a Spellstone, but it's only 2 minions and a Zilliax drawn.
Oh, yeah.
With the ability to use Shadow Word Pain in this spot too, so you can protect it. Although I think you do want to get the guaranteed 3 life gain, because if they did have some way to remove Zilliax efficiently, you'd be very sad.
Yes.
It actually is the second Vile Spine Slayer. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That is a draw. What's the spell count for this?
He needs 2 more to upgrade it, I believe, to 3. Resurrect 3 minions. I think he moused over it last turn. He didn't play any spells. Oh, Eternal Servitude. Zilliax doesn't match up against the Hench Clan Thug, which is the awkward part. But still, can play Eternal Servitude. Bring back a full health Witcher Grizzly. Just saw Vile Spine Slayer, Shadow Pain, and we're getting there. Oh, it's just 1 more spell.
Yeah, it was 1 more spell. And, Machamp needs to pick up that Myra's unstable element, but with such a fast dagger, it makes me think he didn't draw it, and it was Dire Mole.
Not looking good for Machamp. Or, sorry, yeah, for Machamp. Hench Clan Thug's a great card, but it's not that good. Witcher Grizzly's a little better in this situation.
I mean, yeah, Tansoku has the ability just to drop the Spellstone and adapt to whatever he gets. Even if it's 2 of the weaker minions, it still has board dominance.
Yeah.
You can't get past this malicious Witchwood Grizzly.
He's Tansoku-licious. How does the
That's
song
right.
go, Dan? Can you sing it for me?
The
whole thing
we need
from the beginning?
I'm sure Admirable will be able to figure it out, but
Too soon.
ooh, the Lich
Whoa!
King as well. I mean, that's just more fuel to the fire. I mean,
Doesn't even need it at this point.
yeah, the Spellstone reviving 3 minions is really good, and the fact that it's Witchwood Grizzly again is devastating. He did have that Zilliax possibility as well. But to overcome a board of this size, it would be very ambitious.
Do you have, like, an encyclopedia in front of you? I couldn't even think of 1 word that ends
Look,
issues.
I went to pre-SAT class, okay? I want to make my parents' investment kind of worth it at least. Because clearly everything else didn't work out.